Patreon. We're going to spread the word. Mitchell and Coleman live streaming for the first time ever. Here it goes.
We read it?
Yeah. Hit up Reddit. Boom. Let's drop the bombs. Let's do it. Bombs over Baghdad. Classic punk rock. Bam. I'm just going to throw the link in there.
Wait, do you want to start recording on Audacity real quick? So we're not having to do that on live?
People are going to be able to scroll backwards and see this interaction anyway.
That's true. Let's just start real quick. Go to your Audacity.
Yeah, before people get on and start distracting us, sure.
Yeah.
So, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Save some for me.
I'll do 3, 2, 1, like always. Ready?
Oh, sure. 1 sec. I tried to record a dummy thing, and it is, as expected, taking a little bit.
Yeah, there's.
We are experienced streamers.
Okay, ready?
Or recordists.
Ready?
I am ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does that look good?
Well, this is our process for the uninitiated, and it's probably not the most efficient way to do this. And that time actually looked a little off to me, so I'm going to stop.
Okay.
And let's just do another one just for safety, just to make sure we're getting really synced.
You've switched to on air, Mitch.
Hey, like you said, we're broadcasting now.
Okay, you ready?
Absolutely.
I keep touching it with my finger. 1 second. Okay. 3, 2, 1, record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I can't tell if we're not synced or if just you aren't perfectly, if there's a delay.
I'm doing it pretty well because my new laptop there's no delay on my screen.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, just for safety's sake, let's do it one more time, okay?
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. Yep.
3, 2, 1, record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, I feel like we're good. But a little critique, a little criticism. I still think just you personally are off in your counting.
Or the possibility we're using a brand new way to talk to each other. Maybe there's a delay there.
I don't see that as a possibility.
Okay. Well, I can fix it in post. So.
Well, aren't you the trained and seasoned editor that I always knew you were?
Mm-hmm. I am actually.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So, if nobody's joined us yet,
I haven't shared anything yet. So,
well, I have on the Patreon. So, if you're a Patreon viewer, hey, I hope you saw this message. I'm also gonna go hit up the Facebook, and stay tuned, folks, because we've got a great review coming up. That's what this stream's all about.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to type with one hand.
Oh, that's a technique I mastered back in high school.
Ew.
It's just, you can, it's true.
No, I got it.
Okay, I have logged on to our Facebook community, and boy, do I not like Facebook as a whole. Just
hey, let's not diss Facebook on a live stream when they're my company's biggest clients.
Wow, that's so cool. My company also works with large, big scale clients. I can't type and talk at the same time. It's crazy. Come join us for most ever live stream event.
Make sure you put happening right now.
Happening right now.
And then the link as well, obviously.
The link, it's on there. Boom, shaka laka laka. Whoa! The thumbnail is just a picture of you. Hi.
That's as it should be.
So there you go. And then I'm gonna share this from my personal account because why not? Is it okay? Should I?
Don't do your personal account. There's people on your personal account. I don't want to join a live stream with us.
I see your point. Okay, it's just the fans, just the fans,
just for the fans.
And my wife might pop in. I don't know. Your wife might pop in. Who knows?
My wife's asleep, and I didn't tell her we were live streaming, so I hope she doesn't pop in.
Oh, Coleman, what is this?
No,
that's her. That's my impression of your wife.
She don't care that I'm live streaming. Just I don't think she's wearing something good for broadcast right now.
Okay, so here's the thing that we need to decide because we're recording video, obviously, and we are recording the audio that we're going to use for the episode. I would call this stuff, though, pre-episode content. Would you call it that? Would you say that? We're not going to have this stuff in once we start our official episode 52 discussion, right? I mean, like, at what point are you,
Oh, the same place we always do. Welcome to Thoughtspeak, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, sure. Okay. So just once we get enough people in the stream, maybe.
Oh, we're going to start before I don't care how many people are here. There's possibly no one will show up for this one. We didn't really give anybody warning.
That's very true, except I gave people warning about 5 hours ago, so I don't know. Although I will gladly go in and make a brand new posting on our Patreon.
Oh, we got one guy from Australia watching right now.
Hey, you know what? Thank you very much. He said he's from Patreon, and he said he was going to join us. She, I'm not entirely sure. Also, I'm not looking at. Is there a chat aspect to this thing that I'm not seeing?
On YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Okay.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, so I have to physically watch this on YouTube as well. Okay.
You can probably pause the video or mute it.
Maybe I'll mute it. Okay. Cool. Yeah, no. The social aspect of this is just on hold temporarily as I figure out how the chat works. But hey,
I bet there's some app you can download so you can just see the chat or something,
Boom! It's Daniel Martinoli. Excellent. Okay. And I see the stream now. So, oh, cool. We even have we can address, Daniel-san.
Daniel-san.
Thank you for joining the live stream, Daniel-san.
All right. Posted to Reddit as well.
Oh, good. Reddit. Like that.
Yeah. We're not going to do this for every episode, but for this one, we're going all out.
Sure. No, it's totally, I think, yeah, it should be limited to Patreon. And I am trying to get other Patreon people to just hop on quick. Come join us for our first ever live stream.
Yeah, we'll get started here in a minute if there's anybody else watching. We're just very new to the live streaming thing, so we're sending out some invites, and so we got 2 people watching now.
Oh, sweet! More people. Who else we got here? Can't
so I guess
see.
I think I'm gonna make my Google Hangouts video smaller, so I can see just the chat.
No, we don't see Daniel, as far as I know.
I can see the chat now on my right.
Yeah, I can see that as well. So we see you in that regard, Daniel. Let me just take this. Oops, God.
Don't break your equipment.
Clumsiest person in the world.
Hopefully we'll have better cameras set up next time too. Yours actually looks pretty good, Mitch.
Oh yeah, thanks.
It's
just the standard MacBook.
I mean, it could be clearer. It's it definitely looks like a laptop camera, but I'm saying versus mine, which I paid out
I've got very good lighting in here.
Yeah, I paid out well for my laptop, but the one thing I absolutely did not care about was the webcam.
Oh, sure, yeah. I would feel the same way. Okay.
Okay. Well, we got a couple people in here. We could get started.
Yes, absolutely. Before I get started, let me just crack one of these guys.
Cup of cold one with the boys.
And yeah, hopefully I got a koozie on it so you can't see the brand. It's just coffee.
I don't think we care about the brand.
Oh. No, wait a minute. What the heck?
What?
I hit the wrong button on Patreon.
What did you hit?
An upload button. Not the right one.
What's the what were you uploading?
I'm just sharing the stream that we're doing right now on our Patreon.
Okay.
I mean, I shared it once within the group that we were talking to earlier.
Sure.
The group that I'm neglecting the chat on. It's just Daniel.
Let me make sure this. Oh, we got 3 people watching now. I want to make sure this is public too. Obviously, people can find it if they have the link. Obviously. I think it is. Because if it's public, then anyone who's subscribed to our YouTube channel will get the notification too.
Okay, sweet. So it's like everyone's gathered around watching us be noobs on live streaming. Nice.
Daniel made a point saying, I think the other 2 are you guys. Because we're both watching on YouTube.
Oh, fuck. Daniel's right. Daniel's right.
Daniel. Yeah. All right. Banned from future streams for putting us in our place.
No, we need him, especially for this episode because it's Australian, right? And you're Australian, ain't you?
He said good day from Australia. He could be visiting Australia.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's true.
And he just had time during his vacation to watch us stream.
Yeah. Just wait until we have, like our backgrounds all set up and everything. Like my office is a work in progress right now.
Yeah, I just made sure there was a Godzilla in frame. That's it.
You can see my signed Penn and Teller poster that I got when I saw them in Vegas.
It's pretty rad.
Pride and joy of my collection. One of them.
Daniel says that he is Australian, born and raised. So he comes from land down under.
Let me just tell you, Daniel, I had the great privilege to visit Australia when I was about 12 years old, maybe 13.
That's pretty cool.
I think I was going into 8th grade. Yeah, I was in that age range. And it was part of a people-to-people student ambassador kind of program. I think they prided themselves on choosing like good students to pick. I don't know how I got picked. I didn't have grades necessarily. I think expenses had to do something with it because you still had to pay your own ticket to Australia. But I had cool parents that were like, yeah, I think you should do it. So anyway, I flipping got to spend, where did I visit? We flew into Cairns. And no, I'm sorry. We flew into Sydney and then went to Cairns. That's right. And then we traveled all around the East Coast. Yeah. If you name some towns, I bet we stopped there. I mean, all the major ones. We went to the easternmost point on Earth.
Let me try some Australian out on Daniel. Not an accent or anything.
Sure.
But I just want to ask Daniel. I assume I don't know what time it is right there, or what's appropriate time wise for your people. But are you feeling dusty right now? Feeling good? A little dusty?
What is it?
It's Australian. All right. He'll know what I'm talking about. Now he's naming places for you.
Good, yeah, Brisbane. Oh, Brisbane. Love me some Brisbane. Cool. Yep. Etc. Oh, I loved it, etc. It was beautiful. Yeah, we got to see a lot of cool stuff while we were there. And I think most of the people that I was in a group with all agreed that Australia was just better than America in general. We all wanted to move there. So
He says it's 4 p.m. Wouldn't say I'm feeling dusty. As far as I know, dusty means drunk or, tipsy.
well, yeah, and he's saying it's 4 p.m. So he hasn't gone out to hit the bar
Too
yet.
early. But once he does, if he gets a little dusty, maybe he'll meet someone special and they'll get to rooting. That's another Australian thing.
I see you're trying really hard to work the conversation in this order.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if it works.
I don't know. But Ben Freeman.
Yeah, we see that
another
Ben
guy.
joined. Hi, Ben.
Yeah. You did not miss the cast. We haven't started yet because we're terrible at YouTube. So we're getting ready to start here in just a few minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've just been waiting for a few streamers to jump on. We got super excited. We thought we had a bunch, but turns out 2. But Daniel and Ben, super cool to have you. Thanks for watching. Did you hear about it from the Patreon or the Facebook or the Reddit or so and so and so?
And
In fact,
besides what Mitch is talking about, yes, I meant rooting. It's one of the only other Australian terms I know, which is might be inappropriate for this not safe for work podcast. Ben Freeman says Patreon.
Patreon, nice. Okay, the Patreon sure is great. Really bringing people together. I'm gonna go upvote the Reddit's post on our Animorphs.
Oh yeah,
just to help it out,
I just post on Reddit. I can't do anything more than that because I don't want to seem biased as a mod over there.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't pin our Thoughtspeak post to the top or anything. That'd be
not yet.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we got at least 2 people and then us 2 watching. So you want to get started?
Oh, there's 6. Hey, suddenly people.
Oh, there's some more people. Yeah.
I retract my apology. We still need the kind words, Ben. At this point, I feel like we got enough people to mention that recently all of our iTunes ratings and reviews were removed as we'll
say that on the we'll talk about that on the podcast.
Oh, you want to? Okay. I know. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's good to bring up at any point just to let people know.
Yeah, I just don't want to beat people over the head with it.
We were desperate for ratings and reviews starting out, but now we're like, it's like starting over basically. So
yeah,
we need the kind words more than ever, I think.
Hold on, bring up a little thing here real quick. There we go.
Absolutely.
Okay, you ready to get started?
I believe so. I'm recording. We have people watching. This is going to be a very interesting experience. I'll try and follow along and, respond to the questions or
the way I think this should work is obviously there's going to be chat and more people will come and go, whatever. We need to go as normal. But if somebody brings up like a really good point in the chat or somebody's like, there's something specific that we need to talk about, then we'll jump to the chat and do like a little Q&A. But for the most part, I want to do an episode as normal because there's going to be people listening to this on iTunes or wherever they get their normal podcasts that, didn't get to join us with the chat. But we'll definitely interact and be a part of that. But we can't like stop every 5 minutes to talk to people.
Sure, sounds good. Before we begin, real quick, Coleman, do you have my notes on Evernote?
No, I don't need them for this one.
I guess that's true.
It's pretty simple plot.
Yeah. It's a mixed bag for sure.
Okay. Also, remember that we're on a little bit of a delay with the chat, so they're gonna see this in like I think it's like a 2-second delay or something, or maybe a little longer than that. Might be a little longer than that. But
okay.
Anyway,
that's not terrible. Yeah. Intro me.
Okay. I always prepare a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Your Audacity still recording?
Audacity is still recording.
Mine as well. Cool. Okay.
Wait.
What?
No, yeah, it's definitely still recording.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name is Mitchell. And boy, if we're off our game at all, it's because this time, this Thoughtspeak, we are doing something completely different. Something that we hope to bring to you more in the future. You said your name's Coleman and I'm Mitchell, right? Yeah, we did that.
We are live streaming this episode for the first time. We may make this a regular event, but obviously all mistakes are going to be heard now. There's nothing we can just edit out. I mean, we can fix things for the final episode, but you're going to be hearing
I
it.
sincerely hope that you at least know this thing.
What? You just cut out a little bit.
No. You cut out a little bit. See, we're already hitting those awesome technical difficulties.
Yeah, it's great times. But yeah, we're live streaming for the first time. At least an episode, like a full-on episode for the first time. And yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's a new venture for Thoughtspeak.
Absolutely. And like I said, one that we hope to take into the future. We are within the, I think, 12 book range of finishing the Animorph series. So with that in mind, you might have seen like reflected in our Facebook or our newest logos, we are kind of switching gears into being more of a book nostalgia podcast. I don't know if you guys have any feelings on that necessarily just yet, or what you think about that, but I hope what you take away from it is that it means we're planning on sticking around for the future.
Yeah, we've been doing this for 4 years, and we've been focused on Animorphs. We've had crazy schedules as far as when episodes are released and all that. So moving into the future, I mean, I'm excited to get into other books, but still take what we've learned in this huge Animorphs section and go forward with that. But yeah, I mean, I need to. It's just you saw just now me, messing up the little intro. We need to change that intro. It's at least for another few books, we're going to be Animorphs, but that's about the only thing we haven't changed so far. Because yeah, if you've seen our website and everything, we're on the lookout for the next book series, the next few books to go into. We've got a couple ideas, but it's an exciting time for Thoughtspeak.
Oh, absolutely. Best time ever to get into Thoughtspeak, especially on the Patreon. Because we're going to have some cool stuff hopefully coming up real soon on our Patreon. And just thanks to everybody who's been a supporter so far. Speaking of, yes, the intro needs to be updated. Maybe in our next episode, it'll be changed to reflect the changing series, because this is our last book until I think the countdown starts in the next one. At least I know that the next one is when they start to come out to their family and reveal the secret of what they've been doing this whole time.
I'm really excited for, because I never read any of those beginning books where they come out. Like I started, I had a break in the ghostwritten books, and then I started, I think, on the book where they convinced the Taxons to join their side. So these next few books are what I've been waiting this entire series for. This reread.
Man, it's gonna be super awesome stuff, and I'm looking forward to talking about tonight's book even more, just because it's such a, let's say, unique book, and this live stream experience has made it all the more fun. I just like to really. No, I don't want to do whatever. No, I don't want to do whatever you want to do. I want to do what I want to do.
Well, what you want to do is probably what I want to do, which is do what we always do at the beginning of the episode and thank our Patreon supporters, many of who are watching right now live.
Yes, exactly. Many of who are watching live, such as Nita Labrada-Gafaro, and I definitely see you there. It's great to have you. And she says, I'm down for following you guys to any book series, which is just, that's nice.
It's very nice.
I'm going to go through real quick, as we always do, and just thank all of the Patreon supporters that make the show possible. And it's a long, rambly sort of list of names, and many of them are nonsensical. But let's just do it anyway.
Man, people in the chat are already jumping into this book and reviewing it themselves, and I just can't. We can't let that color our opinions, because right now they're tearing this book apart, and we haven't even started.
Oh, sweet. No, that's fine. I'll try not to look into that too much. Which I'm going to actually go do right now. No, I have to resist reading the chats. I got to thank the Patreons. Okay. All right. So Toasty Flatworm.
That's new.
John Maz, Patter Roast, Peter Scholl, Noah Troutman, Ari Shag. I'm sorry.
Come on, man. Come on.
Amanda Mimic, Jeremy Baxter, Tomb Juice. You rock, Tomb Juice. Thank you. Canicula. I like that name too. And Josh Blount, Tony Pazak, Kendra. Kendra, are you still around? Kendra? I'm not sure. Ben Freeman, Jason Thompson, James Miola, Jennifer Baker, Kelly Brown, Kevin Koslowski, Andrew Walker, David C. We got Graith. We got Daniel Martin Noller. He's already chilling in the YouTube stream. Tim Aheen, Nita Labrada Gaffado. Probably butchered that, but we got to thank you anyway. Michael Blemick and Steve Adams.
I'm sure no one is actually going to offend us by mispronouncing their name. Some names are unfamiliar to us, or some are just different than what we're used to. And I hope you feel that we're saying them with the enthusiasm, because we actually incredibly appreciate everyone who supports us on Patreon.
I love Daniel's comment. I'm sure the Flatword family has a long and interesting history.
Yeah, I saw that.
This has already enriched our episodes and our dialogue.
I think it makes it more exciting. But honestly, it's because of our Patreon subscribers that we are able to move into new ventures like this and redo our website like we did. And now I want to buy like a nice webcam and like outfit this room and make it cool studio. But yeah, we really
I want to become a Let's Play streamer.
Let's play some Smash Brothers, the new Ultimate Smash Brothers. So
I'm sure I'd be down with that, and a lot of people probably would.
Yeah, but yeah, if you want to support us, if you want to help us doing new things like this, and just just are excited about what we're going to do next, head on over to Patreon /Thoughtspeak. Is it Thoughtspeakcast /patreon.com/Thoughtspeakcast?
No, it's just Thoughtspeak.
Patreon.com/Thoughtspeak, and you can become a Patreon subscriber. And in the future, these will only be the live streams will only notify the Patreon subscribers for these. This will be a special Patreon only gift to you guys for supporting us and helping us out. And obviously, any Patreon subscriber will also get our actual episodes that are edited and a little nicer. You'll get those before anyone else as well. So thanks again, guys.
Totally. All right. Do you want to start talking about the actual book, the whole reason we're here tonight, or do you want to read some more comments? I don't know.
I just like looking at the comments. It's new and exciting. No, we should unexpectedly move into our talking about the unexpected Animorphs number 44, 43.
This is Animorphs number 44. Yes, 44. The unexpected. And wow, I can show you the book for the first time. Ooh,
we can.
Oh my god, I probably sound like such a grandpa. On the video tube.
Oh, we could do an unboxing video of the book. Go put it in a box real quick.
The what?
That's big on the YouTube. It's unboxings of like toys and games and stuff.
Well, I get you there.
Yeah.
Sometimes your mic does cut out a little bit. By the way, YouTube, you're not perfect. Your algorithms,
yours does as well. So I'm not sure what that is. We might need to streamline this because we've got YouTube open and Google Hangouts. I'm sure there's a way to have everything all in one video or on one window. So we'll
potentially, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I mean, shit. Here we go. This is Animorphs: The Unexpected. The Cassie Outback Adventure.
Do you want to start talking about the cover?
What is there to say? I mean, you got Cassie turning into a kangaroo. The
that clues the reader in that we're not in America anymore. We're going somewhere a little different, a little down under. I feel like
I am surprised that a quote like "We're not in Kansas anymore" wasn't the cover quote for this thing, because some say you shouldn't play mind games. Tell that to the Yerks. It's just like obviously one of those stock quotes that they pulled out of a binder somewhere.
I want to ask you real quick. Do you think how this book was created? Do you think they specifically wanted to go to Australia, and that's why the main morph is a kangaroo, or they wanted to morph a kangaroo, therefore they set it in Australia? Because why would they need to morph a kangaroo in a normal scenario?
I don't know, but I actually have a lot of gripes with this book, specifically about how kangaroo oriented this one was. And primarily, I mean, it all stems from an anger that they didn't do a koala morph anywhere.
Well, real quick, Daniel makes a great point in the chat that in 2000, lead up to the 2000 Olympics, was in Australia. So there might have been some Australia fever going around, and that might be why this book is set there.
Oh, wow.
We're learning from the chat now. They've become sentient.
I've also learned from the chat that this too is a book that, 7th grade boys were embarrassed to carry around. And why wouldn't they be?
Not as bad as like the Rachel turning into a starfish book, or
I think I had this same outfit in the 90s or the early 2000s. I had this. I think I have this in my closet right now, come to think of it. It's like a pink purplish, flannel. I got one.
What's the inside cover look like? What are we looking at here?
The inside cover is actually really funny because it's just like your generic. They're standing around, it's literally like a postcard picture, right? Mm-hmm. But I only just recently noticed that if you look really closely, the kangaroo Cassie here is actually holding the boomerang. I don't know if you noticed that. It's different. Oh. It's different from the cover. Cover's not
so much to say about that aspect of this book, but we have to wait. Although I think for those who maybe are just checking in to see us do something live, you might want to stick around because our reviews might not go the way that we're all expecting. I'm just gonna drop that little hint. But
sure, yeah. It's possible. I mean,
let's discuss.
We'll see. Yeah, kangaroos are dangerous, by the way, Daniel. People do underestimate them.
Why don't
I got to pet and play with a little kid, a little Joey. That's what they're called.
Well, he's talking about drop bears. Don't underestimate drop bears.
I don't know what the hell a drop bear is, but
it's a fictional.
Don't underestimate that.
It's a fictional koala-looking beast that drops from trees onto tourists and kills them in Australia.
Sweet. And wombats have square, cube-shaped poop.
I didn't know
another
that.
Fact.
Huh.
It's another fact.
Go figure.
Animal fact.
Do you want to read the back of the book? Because I don't have one in front of me.
Oh, I do. I love this stuff. I live for this stuff. I wake up every day praying that I get to read the next back of the book. The Animorphs have been split up before, and they've had to fight battles without one another. But this time is very different. Not only is Cassie totally alone, she's managed to find herself in Australia, in the rural outback. The other Animorphs and Axe don't even know she's there. Cassie doesn't have any idea where she's going or if she can even survive the rugged terrain, but she does know she has to get to a town or village and contact her family and friends because she's just realized that there's someone else who is also new to the outback, Visor 3. No dramatic. So yeah, that's like, roughly that's like 0.1% of the plot, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't go into much. Not the real juicy stuff that this book holds to offer.
No, yeah, exactly. Now they're talking about the drop bears in the chat.
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting. Yeah, so let's jump right in. This book starts out pretty similar to many of the other books. I think it tries to do the opening a little different in that it does one of those like describing, past events and who the Animorphs are while we're in a bit of action. which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not
it's
bad.
definitely the kind of book where it starts out where there's a mission in progress and it's just about to go wrong and the battle's breaking out. And this one happens to be at an airport, and it's over a piece of scrap from a crashed bug fighter. I almost feel like this is starting to be like they're playing like Whose Line Is It Anyway, with just random suggestions for these Animorphs books. Like they dug them out of a hat, you know? Like, okay, we've got airport and crashed bug fighter. All right, and make it work. And then Cassie, Australia.
So the MacGuffin, it's cool that the MacGuffin in this book isn't part of the plot. Like it's how they start out the plot, but it's not something that goes throughout the whole book. It's almost the idea of the MacGuffin, which is just a piece of a crashed ship, a bug fighter, is something that goes throughout the book. But there's not one specific thing they're chasing throughout the book, which I thought is actually kind of different for books or movies or anything in general. You have this starting out MacGuffin that just creates the plot, and then we move on from there.
I mean, it technically comes back in a different form slightly later in the book.
That's insane. It's more like a theme or something important to the arc of this book, if you say it even has one.
This book had a lot of themes that it was trying to go for, I feel like, that we'll talk a little bit about here.
And it nailed. It executed some of them. No.
I don't know about
that. But no, I thought so. Just starting out, and I don't want to just seem like I'm just playing devil's advocate here. There's a lot of issues with this book. There's a lot of really boring parts too. But I actually thought the airport scene was a pretty cool start in just like, shit hitting the fan and not going the way they're planning on it. And then I just the airport setting is something they haven't really done a lot with. And this hit a lot of those goalposts as far as if you're going to write the Animorphs on a mission to the airport. It hits all the things that I think were kind of cool and exciting about it.
Yeah, exactly. Even the people in the chat seem to feel pretty positive about this opening airport scene. And I got to admit, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It just feels to me like a very stretched out occurrence that's just a setup to get us to this, outback adventure that we're waiting for and we know is coming. In fact, I felt like a lot of things in this book focused on uninteresting details for too long, and then it quickly sped over things that I thought would have been really interesting.
Can I pull us into a tangent right off the bat?
I don't know. Ask our viewers.
No, I don't do what they say. I want to jump into I want to read that book right away. So what would have been really interesting is if this book was a Megamorphs book. I know I say that about every single one. But if this book was a Megamorphs book and you had somebody transported really far away, like Australia, and so you were following the adventures in Australia and also the other Animorphs, like trying to leave their parents with a Chi version of themselves, and then book a flight somehow or sneak board another plane to try to figure out where the other person went or follow them. Or you could have had like a really good double scenario there with some wacky antics in the Animorphs and airports and planes and stuff traveling all over the world.
I don't know why you bring this up.
Trotting Animorph story is what I'm asking for.
I don't know why you bring this up now, because at the end of this we're both gonna have our own it would have been better if they'd have done all of this and this and this, because I got my own ideas.
Yeah, I like doing this throughout. That's my first one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through all the things that I wish it would have expanded on and stuff that it could have cut out or compressed.
Let's keep going with the plot right now. You got a tangent, that's fine, but let's go with the plot.
Oh, the plot is so simple. I mean, like I said, this airport scene is actually kind of a really long setup just to get Cassie on this plane. And I even thought that the plane sequence takes... because ending off, Hork-Bajir on the plane, she's hiding from them, she's setting little traps. It almost becomes like Home Alone for a sec on an airplane with an Animorph. And that part I was like, really? Gosh, they are going into some detail about way more than this plane trip than I expected. It was almost half the book. It's definitely the first third of the book.
So the airport action scene opener, I thought that was okay, not terrible. I actually thought everything that happened on the plane was pretty exciting and well written. I actually really liked her trying to figure out like, okay, the scanning procedure, how they're stopping the airplane and freezing everybody, how she can like prepare for that, and her having to find a little cubby hole with a zipper canvas front and like position the engine parts so that she wouldn't be scanned. I thought all that part was great. I actually thought it was a interesting part of the book.
I suppose, it's well written, I guess I can say. It just I felt like it needed to be snappier, maybe do some cuts in time. I don't know. It felt very forced to get this plane to be near Sydney. I mean, I don't really see why there was a reason to, like Daniel pointed out in the comments.
No, we both agree that the whatever pushed this book forward and the whole kangaroo and outback and Australia stuff, that was, just an initial idea that they wanted to force into existence however they could. So, however we could get there, they put her on a plane and have her fall asleep, and 17 hours later, she wakes up.
Yeah. One way or another, we know that Cassie's getting to Australia. So I felt like all this airplane stuff was just filler, really. Like you said, she defends herself from these Hork-Bajir and Texans on this airplane several times. And
like, you say it's filler, but again, it's a third of the book, just like you said. Like the majority of this book takes place on the plane almost. So I think they did care about that part, and I did enjoy it. And her trying to outwit the different, the Hork-Bajir and stuff, and how many Hork-Bajir are going to be on each bug fighter. And again, I thought all that stuff was very interesting. It kind of reminded me of like it's called comics and stuff that have done this, like Wanted and stuff like that have cool like airplane scenes where no one else is like relevant to the action going on. It got some real Air Force One vibes. All right, so
okay, yeah. Well, I mean, some people say it's an odd choice to have Cassie for this book, and I noticed that Cassie's plot lines tend to involve her getting split off from the group. She's had quite a few now. This is probably her third or fourth, at least, if not more, adventure on her own. And I feel like her character arc is obviously the morality of coming to terms with war acts, and how she can balance her morality and her obligations to her teammates and friends and the human race. And it just seems like this book doesn't do much of anything to advance that particular character arc of Cassie.
I disagree with you there, because I think Cassie has always been the question, the morality of what they're doing and the acts of war. I think we see a very different Cassie than we saw the last time that we split her off from the group and had her own book and things. This is a Cassie who, uses a gun, uses a Dracon beam multiple times in this plane, and uses it quickly. Like she doesn't just defend herself; she stops the problem. She shoots Hork-Bajir. She almost shoots the woman, the human controller. She's not. Even if she's questioning what she's doing or how she's doing it, she's acting quickly, which I don't think Cassie in book 19, 20, 21, that Cassie would have just reacted like that. She's a warrior now. She's a soldier. And I don't think we've ever seen that side of Cassie before, but we get it in this book, oddly.
I
we don't really want to read.
She has definitely changed. I'm saying I don't think this book furthers her progression much at all.
I think we see the progression that has already happened. I don't think she progresses in this book, so I'd agree with you on that.
No, she definitely shows off all the skills that she's learned in the past couple of books. And as we know, she's a complete and utter badass. She can handle herself in almost any situation.
Yeah, Daniel's right in the chat where he says this is a Cassie that killed a bunch of controllers to save the rest of the team in the last book. So he's right. We saw that in the last book as well.
Sure, and to go with the her moral themes, she does have reservations about harming these Marines that are stationed there at the airport that they don't think are controllers. They're just mixed up in the whole thing. So that's a part of the plot here, is her, feeling bad about including random civilians in their battles.
The whole MacGuffin at the beginning, it reminded me a lot of when they went to Area 51. and they were trying to get the Andalite toilet. You had a bunch of Marines and soldiers who weren't part of it, but they were protecting the MacGuffin, and the Yeerks and the Animorphs are both trying to get to it. Kind of ripped right from that book.
You know what? Honestly, I wish that this book came at that time. This book could replace that one, because I feel like at an earlier point in their adventures, this would have been a far more significant event and happening.
Well, yeah.
Whereas at this point, the crazy adventures they've had so far, nothing really compares. This doesn't really compare to anything like that.
Yeah, in the first 20 books, it would have been more interesting for them to get split off, because they were still acting more like kids. They were still scared of the scenarios and stuff. And I think one of them being alone in a foreign country would have been a lot more interesting from a reader's perspective. Like, there would have been a lot more to deal with, a lot more fears, a lot more, things on top of the war they're trying to fight.
You know what? If they had a couple extra books, as Nita pointed out, this could have been a good 3-book arc, sort of. And we talked about in a past episode how great hashtag I want that book it would have been if Cassie had at one point broken away from the group, and like we said, went off to a different part of the world and started her own little Animorphs group. I think that would have made an excellent 3-book, 4-book arc. Of Cassie starting her own little subsidiary of Animorphs in Australia. Why not? That'd be cool.
I want that sequel series, Animorphs International. That'd be a cool way to take the series.
That could work. I mean, I feel like they had a lot of potential for a going to Australia story.
I always want to see if they ever do a sequel series or anything. I always think it'll be interesting. Exactly what you just described. Forming a new group and trying to figure out who they can recruit or not. I know we're going to be dealing with that in a couple books from now with the not
auxiliary Animorphs.
Yeah, the auxiliary Animorphs, which I've never read. So I know that we're dealing with those.
They could have totally had like a satellite Animorphs.
Every kid isn't going to be David. Like, they got a bad roll of the dice with him. I think without going to people like the auxiliary Animorphs, they probably could have found some other team members or something.
They could have found me. I could have been the 6th Animorph.
After this, around that time, I was waiting for my Hogwarts letter. So, I don't know who I was going to join up with.
Sure. So let's see. I mean, how much more detail do you need to go into here on the airplane scene? Right.
We don't have to do much. I really liked the bug ships, connecting with the airplane and the Harbinger boarding and all. I really thought all that stuff was well done. But we can drop out of the plane and head into the outback, which again.
Real quick though, Daniel pointed out that the plane wouldn't realistically be very close to the outback. But I do recall them saying, they were like in space. So I think the tractor beams on the bug fighters were like, lifting the plane out of orbit. And so obviously the world would be still turning. So maybe that's a possible explanation as to why they ended up in the outback.
But when the tractor beam stopped, the plane depressurized. So they had to be lower than a low Earth orbit. They couldn't be all the way in space.
Spaceman, how does that work?
Wait, are you saying space, man, or spaceman? How does it work? Are you asking an astronaut right now in the chat?
I want to leave it broad. I want to leave it open-ended.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Well, moving on into Australia, which is where this book goes now.
How to speak Australian.
Nope. I thought we could do this entire episode without one of us doing an Australian accent, and you just failed us. You failed us completely.
Well, buckle in, boys and girls, because there's more of that to come.
So disappointed in you right now.
Disappointed in the direction of the story. Well,
I mean, I appreciate that it, we land in the outback, making no sense to the direction of the plane or where things were going and all that. And not only does she land just, out in the desert, but she lands on, I don't know if Australia has anything like reservations or anything for their native inhabitants. I actually don't know much about the native inhabitants.
Aboriginals.
Aboriginals. I know that. I've only seen like
I've visited an entire colony tribe. When I was there. I don't know if you people watching the stream right now or joined us at the moment, but I was telling Daniel that I'd had the honor of visiting Australia when I was much younger and just fell in love. I mean, it's a great place. I highly recommend visiting if you can. If you can somehow make your way into the cargo bay of a ship and get ejected out of the atmosphere and pull off a good old-fashioned morphin land in time, I'd say it's worth it for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, my only experience with Aboriginals of Australia are, I think, probably very horrible representations in like TVs and movies. Yeah, they're every single time.
Ace Ventura 2 only portrayed native tribes as cunning and clever and honorable and possibly worshiping bats.
I feel like there was an era of Nickelodeon shows where people would go to the outback or Australia and encounter. It's kind of like the very racist tendency for TVs and books and things to go to Asia and they find like a mystical old man with special powers we just don't understand because Asia is just the Far East. I feel like a lot of TV and movies in the 90s did the same thing with Aboriginals in Australia, where they always like appeared out of nowhere and gave you like a vision quest. And then that was the Australian episode for old like Nickelodeon shows. I really
I get what you mean.
Yeah. So I don't think
since you mentioned Nickelodeon shows, I try to interrupt you and then you try to act polite. Anyways, Wild Thornberries, man. I'm pretty sure they must have had an Australian episode or two.
They
or
did.
three.
They did exactly what I just described. Wild Thornberries did, where she ran into an Aboriginal and he was, all done on the makeup. I don't think it was a good representation of what modern Aboriginals probably look like. Because we see in Animorphs, at least Animorphs, they have a house, they have radios. It's more realistic to probably how they modernly live.
Totes agree. Anyway, Cassie's adventure. Oh boy, is it on its way to being underway? Because here it goes. She has a brief moment where she's like, "Where am I? What's going on? Am I in South Dakota or whatever?" She saw SYD on some luggage, didn't know what it meant. So she's got her whole kind of. She morphs into a flea first to like hide out from the Urks for a while.
The bug fighters are shooting the ground and tons of other stuff.
Sure. And then she hides out in a little cave or whatever for a bit. And then finally, once things calm down, demorphs. And as she's kind of scanning the horizon, this is where we meet a spiky-haired young individual named Yami Yugi, who challenges Cassie to a duel. And the loser is banished to the Shadow Realm. And that was a very unexpected. I think that's why they call this one the Unexpected. Because at no point did they mention anything about dueling or Yami.
Or even Egyptians.
And yet here we are confronted with a spiky-haired anime protagonist.
This is my problem with doing live broadcasts. I can't edit out your Yu-Gi-Oh references anymore.
You're just going to have to get used to them, my friend.
But in reality, what this book does is Cassie meets an Aboriginal family, specifically a young boy who sees her morph from a bug to a girl, from a bird to a girl, from a girl to a bug bird, multiple things, and he equates that with I guess to their ancestral stories of spirits and gods and whatnot.
I feel like anytime Animorphs does one of these books where they're traveling to some far off location, not only do they meet like a side character, a B character or whatever, or a C character, I guess. It tends to often be like a teen or a fellow kid, that they can relate to. And usually it's somebody who like maybe sees that they have powers and, kind of helps them out and they know they're not a controller. So it's like introducing another character that they feel like they can temporarily trust.
Mitchell, I don't want to alarm you, but your wife just joined the chat.
I see that. And honey, I'd prefer if you didn't critique me live. Is all I can say.
My wife is asleep Thank God. All right, that's what I'm happy for.
Excellent. Go to bed, honey.
All right. Well, anyway, so very, very briefly, is it just Cassie hanging out with Yami? Because did she like pass out or something? They got back to his house or the outstation, I guess a small community or village of these Aboriginals, and she falls asleep on their porch, and they just leave her there. Like they throw a blanket under her head or something, but they just leave her on the deck.
It's just like the end of Back to the Future.
It is, yeah. Which I always
where they leave Jennifer on the porch.
Jennifer got shafted throughout that entire series. I love Back to the Future, but they did not treat her well at all.
She became a different person at one point.
Hey, we'll just leave her in this alleyway behind these boxes of toilet paper or whatever those were. Sheesh.
Always got to drop a Back to the Future reference if possible.
It was very relevant.
Now, so the thing that's happening here in the book story-wise, though, is that Cassie has met this identifiable character named Yami, who's a teen like she is. We don't really get much of a description of him other than he's got a little dog named Jala, and they're just kind of walking around. Cassie's following him. And you skipped over the part where they chased the kangaroos, didn't you?
Yeah, they chased the kangaroos. There's a spirit stream or lake or something.
It's a mystic lake. It's a sacred spring, we'll call it. That's what they call it. And this is where Cassie acquires a kangaroo after saving it from a fence.
Ben Freeman in the chat brings up a very interesting part of this book. Cassie has a little bit of a romantic flare-up with this Aboriginal young man. She references Jake when describing him, and then stops herself and keeps telling us, the reader, that she misses Jake, almost like she's trying to convince us and herself that she's not a little dreamy-eyed at this young man.
You say that, and it is briefly brought up, but I feel like it's almost so awkwardly shoot in there that it's not really followed up on, or they don't do anything more significant with it. Like I said, unless Cassie decided in the end of the book to stay there and like make Yami, her second in command on her new satellite Animorph B team, that'd be cool.
I like the chat right now. It's what happens in Australia stays in Australia.
Oh, totally. Unless they go there and make a movie about it, like that Kangaroo Jack.
But anyway, so yeah, I skipped over the kangaroo. They see some kangaroos, they chase them a little bit. The dog goes after them, and that was really one of those points in Animorphs where, just like Tobias turning into a red-tailed hawk for the first time and talking about how great his eyesight is. That was a animal fact to get out there to the audience, where kangaroos are actually pretty dangerous and like drown dingoes all the time. It's just a little kangaroo fact for the readers.
Yeah, we got a few kangaroo facts. This wasn't, like a zoo book like some of these things can be, where they really go into specifics about what the animal's good at. They basically gloss over how, it's kind of fast and it's got some claws and it's sort of a mean kicker.
You just brought up zoo books, which I have to reference. How cool would it have been if there had been a special edition zoo book with all of like the animal facts, but it was like Jake turning into like a llama, and they did like the cutouts of the organs changing and stuff within them.
You got problems if you want that one.
No, I love zoo books, man. I love zoo books as a kid. So I want to Animorphs, #Animorphs zoo books.
Well, you know what? I appreciate the little bits that we get on animals when we get them. The kangaroo, I feel like, is a pretty, upfront animal. What you see is what you get. And like I said, I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't take the opportunity to do some cool stuff. There's all sorts of animals that are unique to Australia.
From what I hear from the internet, which is always truthful, koalas are kind of a worthless species. I don't want to offend our Australian listeners. I don't know how they actually feel about koalas, but I've heard from other Australians that they're They just hang out in trees. Obviously, the plants they've chosen to eat are bad for them, and that's why they have to eat so much of it. And
they've all got chlamydia.
They all have
I know.
chlamydia. They just pee all over themselves all day. I mean, I hear
they're useless like pandas.
Pandas are awesome. I like
unpopular opinion.
I like
hashtag. Hashtags at the end of a sentence. Hashtag.
That's how it works now.
Koalas are basically walking chlamydia factories. Yes.
I like the chat has now started another narrative about Jake and Melissa Chapman hanging out on the weekends whenever Cassie's out of town. I don't know where that's coming from.
If they had tried to make Animorphs a little bit more like Katherine's pre-Animorphs writing series, what was it?
Sweet Valley High.
Making Out or something. No,
like Sweet Valley.
I'm sure she ghost wrote for them, but she had her own series of teen drama kind of books. I thought they were called Kissing or Making Out or something like that. But if they tried to inject a little bit more of that relationship drama into this, maybe it'd have been a little bit more interesting.
Which I want to know. I love how when we dissect Animorphs books, we talk about like what Michael Grant added to it, like the gore or where things went too crazy with the war drama and stuff. I want to know what parts of their previous series he added to. Like the teens are hanging out at Makeout Point, and then like somebody pulls out a gun, and that was Michael Grant.
No, for this one, they asked him if he had any input, and he was like, "Oh, Cassie's in Australia for this one. Yeah, I don't know. Make sure there's like a kangaroo throwing boomerangs or something, and then Visitor 3 shows up. Whatever, you know. Yeah, I'm confident you'll figure something out."
Yeah. So we're at the plot of this book where I'm gonna go from here. I'm gonna take over. Cassie wakes up. And she's in this outpost, this small town village, and Yami comes around the corner and he's like, "Oh, hey, spirit ancestor woman, how are you doing? Wake up, blah, blah, blah. My grandfather really wants to meet you." And he introduces Cassie to his mother and grandfather. And the grandfather's acting, I mean, he's old, but he's acting very delicate, even though he seems like he has a lot of energy and stuff. And skipping forward a little bit, he basically, as a living or a side joint, side gig, what do you want to call it? He carves boomerangs for tourists, and they sell them through Yami's aunt. I guess she lives in a big city, but he gives Cassie one of these boomerangs. But when he's showing her how to use it and hunt with it, you know, we're getting a little more zoo books about Aboriginals. That's not zoo books. That's terrible. National Geographic. Just facts about their culture and boomerangs and stuff. He like actually falls to the ground, and we start the side plot of the fact that when he was making his latest boomerang, he used parts from the bug fighter that was blown up last night. The night before, he was using parts of the bug fighter to cut the boomerang and shape it. I thought that was a little weird and forced, but he cut himself with the bug fighter parts, and I guess the alien metals are causing a rapid infection that is causing the wound to swell up and get disgusting.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of this book spends time on Cassie, you know, and Yami and their little relationship, and like you said, you know, granddad comes around and we're introduced to him and his boomerang fetish, and Cassie wants to get away, obviously get back home, and she has to wait at least, you know, a week for the postman to arrive. So in her mind, she's like, well, I can't do that. I'm gonna you know, make a break for the next town, which is like 50 miles away. And Yami's like, yo, you better wait until it's night, because even a kangaroo would know not to go during the day.
Yeah, she tells him she acquired a kangaroo at this point, just so that everybody knows.
I actually mentioned that earlier. Thank you. But
I was not listening.
I know, buddy. I know. And I let you just go for a while. You tend to lose focus. But like you said, yeah, this is later. Thus starts the granddad subplot of him having hurt himself. And now Cassie is starting to feel more responsible. Like, holy crap, I'm already bringing trouble to these people. Like, I gotta go. And then she's thinking about doing that until she goes to check on him one last time, and his leg is like, I'm imagining it's like a scene out of The Thing. where
Yeah,
it's
this
just
is
like
the size of a basketball. A swelling the size of a basketball in his shin, not even like his upper leg, like his shin. So,
yeah, it's super disgusting. And from right there, I'm like, where is this going? Is this going where I really think it's going?
well, it puts a clock on it. Is what? We had 8 people watching. Now we're down to 6. What happened there?
You can't start obsessing over views because
No, I know.
Future views.
No, I know. It's just I think it's because your wife left. She was 2 people. Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, no, it puts a clock on the plot. That's what they're trying to do with this infection. But it doesn't really work because they kind of ignore. They make it like it's fixed in a very roundabout way at the end. This whole infected leg plot. You do get a cool scene coming up of some more surgery from Cassie, but we're not quite there yet. So
no, yeah, and that's I guess unexpected is really, really fitting for this book in so many ways because yes, it was highly unexpected that we'd have to see Cassie perform yet another surgery that she's nowhere near qualified to be able to perform. But she's already got alien brain surgery under her belt, so I guess that qualifies her to chop somebody's leg off.
She even references that here in the plot. She's like, well, I mean, I've done surgery on my friend in his head, so this has got to be similar to that. And
she mentions how she's had to help her dad amputate animal legs.
Sure, but she's that skill. There's no crossover in that skill set other than like I guess being able to see what you're doing. She uses a Hork-Bajir morph instead of any kind of tools or equipment. She morphs a Hork-Bajir with a wrist blade, which I assume is like right here. So she's like cutting in, amputating like this, and then we've already heard that Hork-Bajir have like terrible eyesight. So that's a problem right there too. Trying to perform surgery with your wrist. I don't see how any of this worked out well.
Yeah, exactly. She actually tries, I think, at first to only do the wrist blades, but then she's like, it's not working out. It's too awkward. I got to go full Hork-Bajir. And yeah, it's extremely unexpected to say the least. She, slices the dude's leg off, which is particularly graphic and also just something really messed up to put a character through.
That's probably the Michael Grant edition. I do want to point out in the chat, Nita says, yes, let the teenage or preteen do surgery. And while it's silly and handled strangely in this book, I actually do think where she performed the surgery on Axe is a fairly realistic depiction of someone scared out of their mind and terrified they're going to kill their friend, but no one else can do this but them scene of her.
Yeah, that book did it much better though. That was the Sickness that you're talking about.
Yeah, I love the Sickness. It's great.
I am down with the Sickness.
Down with the Sickness. Yeah, we both made that.
Good job.
Yep,
we're idiots. So yeah, then now it's become personal. Now Cassie's like, oh man, I'm so wrapped up in this. Okay, I fixed Granddad's leg by amputating it. Yami comes in and he's cool with her turning into this Hork-Bajir after she explains to him. And then the convenient Yeerks arrive once more looking for the Andalite Bandit, and this is where Cassie already is so guilt racked. She's like, I got to leave these people and draw the Yeerks away, right?
Yeah,
pretty safe plan.
Yeah, and then I mean, I don't see any scenario that the Aboriginals in this entire village aren't killed by the Yeerks. Even if she distracts them briefly, how are all these people not infested with Yeerks by the end of this book?
I don't know about infested. I think, yeah, like you say, the Yeerks are definitely playing this weirdly conservative. I totally expected them to call in more ships, more troops, whatever. It doesn't strike me as a highly populated area, obviously. He mentions a couple uncles and some other, I think he says there might be a couple other people. There's some other structures.
I know we're supposed to believe the Yeerks. I know we're supposed to believe the Yeerks are dumb and don't plan well for things, but it seems crazy to me that there was an Andalite on the ground, possibly staying with these people or, like getting help from them. And the Yeerks wouldn't send down like a small troop to infest all of these Aboriginals just to see their memories of interacting with this Andalite. Like that'd be like 101 for a community that interacted with an Andalite bandit, I would think.
Sure. Nita is pointing out that there's no Yerk pool in Australia, and that makes total sense. So if they're playing it conservatively, like I said, with their troops, that makes sense. The Yerks and Visor 3 in particular aren't known for, showing that kind of sympathy towards his underlings. I think he totally would infest humans and then just bring them along. He'd kidnap them from Australia. He doesn't care where the humans are from.
You're all overcomplicating this though, because these don't need to be the new Sub-Visor 437 who has a base in Australia, or even bring these people along. You go down, you capture everybody, you infest them one by one just to get information. The Yerk pops back out, you kill that human, and you go on your merry way. You don't need to have a base there or bring these people, or it's the Yerks. They're the evil bad guys. Just kill everybody after you get the info.
Leave no witnesses. That's what I say.
Now, Nita does make a good point of would it cause a disturbance, this whole community disappearing? Maybe. That's a good point.
And I don't think so. If it's like a handful of people, 10 people, out in the middle of nowhere, it might even take, like he said, until the postman comes back, a whole week before a witness shows up. And you know what? If I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and I'm out of the crime zone for that long, the witnesses can't detect me, and I know that I'm safe. I had my bandana up, so.
That bandana does nothing. It does nothing.
It draws more suspicion to you.
Also, I did not realize that you will get a different ending for your morality within the game. It really affects the ending. So, just a heads up on that.
I'll try to turn things around before I get put on the naughty list.
If you have to say that, it's probably too late. But back to Animorphs. We got to make this relevant so people in the future are like, Red Dead Redemption 2, we're on 5.
Oh, how dated. Yeah, we're on 5. We're on Red Dead Redemption Legacy or Chronicles. Odyssey.
The chat says Visor 3 does not have a bandana.
Oh, obviously. Can you imagine Visor 3 trying to ride a horse like as an Andalite?
He is a horse.
I know, but what if he had a mount? So he hopped on a horse.
Now I just pictured if he had a mount or something, it'd just be like a floating platform he steps up onto, and then he just floats wherever he wants to go.
Or like a big battle cat, like Cringer from He-Man.
I just don't know how the hooves would like cling to the mount, or maybe he'd have like a little.
He'd have a special saddle. It'd be a special saddle.
Makes sense.
I think a creative artist could sketch up a concept of a mounted Visor 3.
Okay, can we get back to this incredibly important plot? Weird. Too many tangents.
I'm gonna drop this on you right now. So much like it has been foretold, foretold, Cassie equips Boomerang before morphing into Kangaroo, as foretold. And this is where she's like, I'm leaving these people behind. I'm going to try and do the right thing, and I'm going to draw the Yerk's attention. And she, like, cartoon, zips out of there. And it's kind of this big dramatic, this is the climax of the book. So this is her escaping from the Yerks, and she's really just hopping around dodging gunfire for the first bit of it until she makes it accidentally over to that sacred spring once again, where the kangaroos are roosting or whatever it is they do. And this is where, the battle kind of climaxes, and we get the backup being provided by the sea characters who once again show up to support our Cassie, for lack of a better word. And hit me with some knowledge, buddy. What you think of this scene?
So I don't want to get into my review yet, but I actually was still interested in the book until they shoehorned this morph in, and even worse, not only is she going to Kangaroo for, I don't know, I know they're fast, but it just doesn't seem like a good morph for this scenario. But then
she blends in with the group though.
Not really, because she's by herself. Before she gets to the group, her plan is to go out in the wild by herself to distract them. But when she puts the boomerang in her Joey pouch, that's when it like officially jumps the shark. Like, this book is ridiculous. I know it was already ridiculous for a lot of reasons, but I don't even think that's like a good pouch
you hit
for
the head
items.
on the nail. I think somebody in that boardroom at some point said, "You're gonna have him turn into a kangaroo, right?" And then the writer was like, "Oh yeah." And then somebody was like, "You should totally work a boomerang into it." Well, I don't know if that makes sense to the plot. No, just trust me. Trust me.
My thing is, I know had the ridiculousness of putting a boomerang in a pouch as a kangaroo. I know their pouches aren't, obviously it's not internal, but most mammals who have a pouch, or like marsupials who have a pouch like that, it's still like it's a different kind of epidermis. So I don't think putting items in there.
No. There's mucus in there for sure.
Yeah, I think there's be like an infection. You get splinters. I don't think any part of that would work out well.
I'll give it to her though. I think in her particular situation, sure, why not be able to tuck a slim piece of wood in there, just like a sheath of some sort. Why not?
The grandfather, this can't be that like good of a boomerang either, because the grandfather was like, you just had a giant piece of alien metal he's slicing this thing with and putting it together. It's got to be pretty ragged. And
well, no, it's kind of cool actually that Granddad gives us a little bit of information, I guess, on boomerangs and particularly that there are different types, like the returning kind are different from the hunting kind,
Yeah,
which
earlier.
Don't return. Sure, you'd say that, but when I went to Australia, they didn't go over that, and I took a boomerang class as well as a bullwhip class.
Ooh,
those were the days.
Bullwhip class, it's pretty cool. But anyway, so you want to describe the next part? She goes out as a kangaroo, and this is, like you said, the climax of the book. So lead the way.
Well, that's actually what's kind of disappointing about this book is that during this big, battle, you're going, there should be at least one question on your mind, if not more, which is, how is Cassie inevitably going to get back to her team? Right? That should be the one burning question in your head. How's it going to happen? And this is where I was really disappointed, because the battle suddenly and abruptly ends when Cassie happens upon a rock, I guess, that she hides behind, and it turns out to be a chi in disguise, which I guess makes sense to the plot, but it just seems like a major cop-out at this point that this is some random chi that snuck aboard the Blade ship, I guess.
Yeah, whenever you write yourself into a corner with this series, you just throw a chi in there, fix the problem. They got super advanced holograms, boop, good to go.
Also, I totally imagine that this chi that showed up is, the name is Lords? Lords?
Yeah, I think he's someone I think it's a chi that they do interact with earlier in the series. I could be wrong on that.
I do not remember a chi named Lords.
I thought there was one, like, because they describe like 3 chi other than Eric. They talk about Mr. King, his dad.
Yeah, Mr. King is one of them. She's got her other, I think there's another chi contact. Or no, I mean, she's got another dude that's a free Yerk.
But it is strange. I mean, I know this is a big, long book series. They were writing these things extremely fast. They were barely going off manuscripts. I am surprised that any of these writers, especially K. Applegate, coming up with some of these at least outlines for the Ghost Riders to go off of, how so many resolve with Visitor 3 coming out of nowhere for a final fight and the chi saving the day. Like, those two things pop up constantly. Like, at some point you think you'd be like, oh, I've done this a few too many times. Because, I mean, obviously these are great writers who are working on the series. A lot, even the Ghost Riders, have gone on to do other series. It's so strange that they just kept bringing this stuff back. It makes me think, like, it's like how a lot of TV shows or story writers or people talk about how you don't know you're in the good times when you're doing it. I think even K. Applegate, to an extent, at this point in the series, they didn't know they were writing a series that will define them to a lot of people, like a big series that was important. I mean, Animorphs isn't, lost or anything, but it was a huge series at the time, and K. Applegate will always be kind of connected to that. Just like J.K. Rowling will always be connected to Harry Potter, even though she goes off and does a bunch of other stuff.
Totally.
I think they would have acted differently at the time if they knew what it was going to turn into.
Oh yeah. I guess. I mean, I don't know how that ties into. I mean, what's your point?
My point is, again, you're saving the day, and Visitor 3 is, he's like a captain on Star Trek. Like, why are you going down to the surface of the planet? You're the captain.
It hits all the necessary beats that past books have to hit, and I think that they gave these guidelines to ghostwriters to keep it within this, sort of here are a couple of things that we typically do, and like I said, it feels very quickly wrapped up where Cassie, who is outnumbered, outgunned, likely, in peril, and suddenly, hey, she's here. We're going to save the day. Daniel's bringing up a lot of things in the comments about maybe there are Chi stationed in Australia or whatever, but this particular Chi Lords had mentioned how he or she had snuck aboard the Blade ship. Now, whether or not that means they went totally like incognito camouflage,
I think
or
that's implying
if they were one of the human controller fakes that have infiltrated the Yeerks.
I think this is implying this is someone who is stationed within the Yeerk command. Someone who's within the structure. I do want to say, again, not to just beat a dead horse or feed an overhead fed force. What does Peter want us to say now? I can't remember. But I really think that they could have come up with so many different ways to keep this a personal story. Like have the Yeerks in the airport scene get Cassie to Australia, but then wrap up the plot and have more of the plot having to do with her, like being in another country, and she can't just like turn into a hawk and fly home. This is a real problem to Cassie that you bring the Chi in, you just fix it immediately. But this could have been like people were saying in the chat. This could have been like a 3-book arc series or something.
It could have been significant. It could have had consequences. Instead, it just doesn't. And here's the biggest thing, I think, is that it really feels like although she was in the outback and although there were kangaroos, the plot could have happened anywhere. She could have been even, just on the East Coast of America, and it'd still be kind of the same challenge, like I got a long ways to go sort of thing. But I feel like we didn't really get to see Australia. Like I said, the lack of Australia-specific animals, she didn't run into any kind of snakes or scorpions or spiders that are really notorious for being in Australia and dangerous. And they just missed so much. They missed so much opportunity with this book, and that's the biggest takeaway. So the abrupt, we're out of the action sequence, and now here's a wrap-up chapter of Cassie back with the team, and we're just gonna, wrap it up here. That's what these things do, and that's how I think that it's kind of a bad book, where they just jump out of the plot and are like, all right, and here's the everything returns to the status quo at the end.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I finished reading this book maybe 3 or 4 hours ago, and I forget how it wraps up. I know they're in the, Rachel. She told Rachel she wanted to go shopping. But are they sitting in the mall? No, they're not in the mall. They're at the gardens.
Yeah, they go to the garden exactly to for Cassie to get a postcard that she's going to send to Yami, obviously, and we get a little bit about how the team missed her so much while she was gone, and Jake specifically was all he could say was I gotta find her, and he was very Liam Neeson like, and Cassie likes that.
You actually have a moment where they kind of confess to everyone else, or they all act like, hey, we all know this between you guys. That was kind of different. The whole Jake Cassie relationship there at the end.
Yeah. And that's really all this book has to say, is like, hey, I guess Cassie's able to survive in some really tough situations. And, I guess you didn't need to see a whole week-long her traveling back to America via sneaking on a cruise ship or something. Like that wasn't as interesting as sudden Chi.
No. That's it. And I agree with the chat. So much of this was just forgettable. And again, I read this within the last 24 hours, and I'm struggling to pull out parts of the book that were interesting or that mattered. Or at least, especially the order of things. I've already lost how some things happened as far as the order and where they are in the book. So that's saying something right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is Animorphs number 44, The Unexpected. And I think, would you like to start us out on the reviews, Coleman?
Sure. I actually came into this recording, or this, I guess, a broadcast is what we're calling it right now. I came into this more positive than I was expecting, and I was going to be a voice of positivity. But talking about it, it's brought it back down. I wasn't expecting to forget this much of the book, not going off notes or anything else, because I just read it. I just finished reading it a few hours ago, and I'm pretty good at remembering plot points, and this book is incredibly forgettable. So that I'm just doing this broadcast has brought down my review. Is it one of the worst books in the series? I mean, we've hit some pretty bad ones. Atlantis was terrible. There were some things. I really liked the airport scene, and I really liked the airplane scene. It was like a mixture of Die Hard 2 and Air Force One with Harrison Ford, and I enjoyed those. It almost went like Tom Clancy novel there for a second, which I had a good time with. So I'm not going to give it like a 1, but I think I will give it 2 out of 5 drop bears. Yeah, I think that's where I have to stick it. It's a 2. It's as low as I'll go.
Wow. Okay. First of all, I got to say that Atlantis was better. Absolutely.
So boring.
Now, this is definitely, I would say, top 3 worst books. And that's really saying something. This one totally felt like an idea that they had written down on a napkin long ago, and they were, kind of desperate for, like I say, filler material at this point. This would have been a much more effective story much earlier in the series. The way it's inserted here is practically useless, I gotta say, and just wasted potential overall is the biggest takeaway from this book. Wasted potential. There's so much more interesting stuff we could have seen in Australia. And it also did something really annoying to me, which is because Cassie is separated from the team, it's obviously, just her side of the story, but she keeps trying to imagine what the other characters would say in her situation. And it always felt like a really cheap attempt to still write the other characters, or in a way, bring them back into the story. And I felt like it didn't need that necessarily. I felt like it cheapened the narrative. So, like I said, totally unexpected that most of the book would be spent on the airport and the airplane setup. Only a third of it happened in the Outback. It didn't feel like an Outback adventure. It felt like a just a side quest. Outback, yeah, I would have preferred that book. Just the team going to Outback Steakhouse and sharing a bloomin' onion would have been much more preferable to this thing. So what else did I want to say about it? I mean, yeah, it's so forgettable. The details. You said it jumped the shark when Kangaroo Cassie equips the boomerang, but I think it jumped the shark when she's in this grave peril, and then the saviors that show up are Yami and his uncles, is like 2 uncles and the dog, and they're chucking boomerangs at these aliens, Hork-Bajirs and Taxons and stuff. And that just, to me, it was the height of ridiculousness. This book is for sure a 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5.
Oh, come on, man.
It's like I don't even want to ascribe it something. 1 out of 5 boomerang wielding kangaroo warriors. I guess.
That's good. That's a good one.
You know what? Here, I will tell you, I did like one really, really good line from the book that I actually dog-eared. It's during the battle where they're fighting the Texans.
Oh,
and
I want to preface this. This is our first live dramatic reading from the book. Take it away.
The wounded Texan himself turned and, with his last dying breath, slurped up his own guts.
Yeah, no, I stopped the book right there, turned to my wife because she was reading something else, and was like, okay, this just happened. This is how they describe taxes in this book. I thought that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Little things, and it's just kind of a side throwaway thing.
Yeah.
So you gave it a 2, I gave it a 1. I gotta say, I think I expected that.
Yeah, that's about on par. I was maybe gonna give it a 3 when we started, but this book really
no
doesn't.
way.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve it.
I
Yeah,
gave Atlantis a 3.
that was crazy. That was ridiculous. But anyway, well, okay, well,
journey.
yeah, well, I mean, this is I'd say a pretty successful first live broadcast. I had a good time reviewing this book.
Oh, it absolutely was. And by the way, I'd just like to point out that coming soon, we can take control of the Animorphs in 2 exciting new games for our PC or Sony PlayStation game console.
Really? I didn't know they were releasing games for those anymore.
Oh, yeah, no. For the PlayStation, we could play Shattered Reality, in which Visor 3 has found the power to warp reality, and only you and the Animorphs can restore the balance of time.
You know what's interesting? I think by doing this live, the actual episode, I think we got through it faster. It might have been the book too, and that we were kind of going.
It was definitely the book. We were stretching for things to discuss here, guys.
A little bit.
Next up is Animorphs number 45, The Revelation, as I'm discovering, and this is just a great book. This is a Marco book, I believe, and yeah, somebody said in the comments that almost every book from here on out is pretty much superb, and I think that's true. I think there's maybe like 2 more that I'm not necessarily looking forward to, but either way, it's going to be a great time. I can guarantee you that.
Is this the book where Marco frees his mom? Is that this book?
I can't say with 100% certainty.
I definitely haven't read it.
I want to say I think so though.
Okay, well, yeah.
I mean, I can't. That's not a certain spoiler.
I'm not going to say
a spoiler with certainty.
I'm not going to say anything about our personal lives right now because you guys know more than anyone that our schedule for releasing episodes is insane. But I can't imagine that once we start reading the countdown to the end, we're not going to blast through these. I mean, I want to read them and I want to talk about them so badly. So.
Absolutely. And with the new year approaching fastly, one of my goals, obviously, is to be more productive, not just with podcasting, but with a lot of things in my life. And mostly to stop procrastinating in certain areas would be great. And
Sure.
yeah, I just, want to kick it into high gear here and get things going. This stream was definitely a positive experience, I would say. Other than the fact that we look and say stupid things and buff a human. Oh, I wish the buff a human was also wasted potential.
I feel like without realizing it, just broadcasting this, being able to look at you and see the chat where we're going, I think this brings a new energy to the podcast that I'm excited about. It feels very different from our normal podcasting setup, where I'm just talking to a computer screen without even a video usually. So
yeah, it does get a little bit taxing just sitting here staring at waveforms.
Yeah, I don't know why Nita keeps bringing up Godzilla. Oh, because I have a Godzilla right here. But I'm incredibly excited about the new Godzilla movie too. By the way, Nita. So, but yeah, I forgot about the Godzilla that's right in the camera.
Yes, we'll decorate our backgrounds with all sorts of nerdy Easter eggs and goodies, all to come. And I think now's a great time to say that Patreons will get exclusivity to these kind of live streams. It's a lot of fun reading your guys' comments, being able to reference it during a stream. Really like that and appreciate you guys joining us for our first ever live test. I think it was, like I said, super successful. So do you want to do our plugs and wind down the recorded portion?
Yes. If you enjoyed this episode, if you like that we're evolving the podcast and we're moving forward in new, exciting ways, this is specifically, we're able to do this because of our Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/Thoughtspeak. That has brought this podcast to a whole nother level. And the more people we get subscribing to that, the more we'll be able to do and the more we'll be able to get the word out about the podcast. If you want to jump over to iTunes, we need to specifically talk about, we should talk about it at the beginning too, but iTunes, we had to, because of the changes of the podcast and the website and stuff, we lost all of our subscriptions on iTunes, all of our subscriptions and our reviews. So we desperately need some new reviews and subscriptions on iTunes just to get the word out about the podcast and make us not look like we just started a brand new podcast. We've been doing this for 4 years and we want people to know that they can expect a certain level of quality and stuff from our work. And
I mean,
iTunes,
at one point we were the top iTunes Animorphs podcast, and then you miss a couple months and suddenly you're slipping in the ratings. I don't know.
You release only 5 episodes in 1 year, and somebody gets worried. I don't understand that. But anyway, so anything you do with that, if you listen to individual podcast apps, I had forgotten about this. I listen to Castbox. That's what I use for podcasts, and we actually have started getting some comments on there, which are their review system. They use comments, so that's
okay.
So wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe. Make sure that we've been refreshed on that feed and that it's our current feed. You should see our new logo with the book and the Thoughtspeak logo and stuff. So check that out on there. We're on Twitter at Morphcast. Get in there to get updates and us just, talking about the podcast and Animorphs and whatever book we're reading. Obviously, we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Thoughtspeak. And if you want to have us read something on the air or send us a message, we're at thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com. So anything you want to say to us or a little longer form messaging type, obviously shoot us an email.
No, absolutely. Patreon, Facebook, all those things really important. As you probably noticed, we're also on YouTube now. For those of us joining us on the live stream on YouTube, all of our episodes, our entire archive, all up on YouTube. And please subscribe to get the content on there. Maybe leave comments on some of your favorite episodes. Who knows? We'll definitely be doing live streaming again. And I'm very excited about the future. And it's going to be so cool when you guys, our initial Patreon subscribers, are going to be able to, look down upon the wave of new Patreons that are going to join after we're done with Animorphs, and you're going to be like, we were here from the beginning. We were with them from the Animorphs. Now that we've gone through this series, and you guys are just hopping on.
Yeah, and chat. I'm sorry, I don't think Making Out, written by K. Applegate, is going to be our next series we jump into.
It could be one of them.
No, I've
got an older KA book called Sharing Sam. It's some like teen, 13 chapter.
I don't want us, as much as I am excited to read some of the other K. Applegate books, I don't want us to be a K. Applegate podcast. I think there's so many books that were important to our childhood and books we read when we were younger that we're excited to talk about. I mean, Cirque du Freak is a huge one that both of us, I read in college, you read much earlier, that we're excited to jump into with this Ender's Game. Oh my gosh, we could do an entire podcast just on Ender's Game.
I've got a lot of books I'm planning on trying to make you read.
Yeah, there's a ton that's going to go into this. So we're incredibly excited about what we're doing after Animorphs. But we got to finish Animorphs first, and we've got the best of the series coming up. So stick with us.
Totally. Until that happens, though, we're going to wind down the recorded portion. And I'm just happy to say that I have been your host, Mitchell.
And I'm Coleman. And we will see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Have a good one, everybody.